For this step, what we will do is reopen the file that we already saved. So this will be a good exercise on how to find your files that you've written or any code that you've produced. So let's go back to PyCharm. And once we open it, we're going to start an exercise understanding what a variable is. So that will be our learning objective. So as you can see here, once PyCharm opens, we have a list of files that were created sometime or another. The last one we did together was our first program. Okay, so we have some others, okay, that I've done some other time, but the one we're interested in is the one we did last time. So we're just simply going now to click on it. Notice now you don't need to select an interpreter. You don't need to do anything else. And as you can see here, this takes us in to the editor where we wrote our first program. At this stage, we can run it to see what this does again. We've seen this is a print statement that will print this string here. A string is a collection of characters. Notice the quotes. And notice the print function. We're going to call this a function. And the way we recognize a function, it will have a name and it will have parentheses. It will have an open parentheses and a close parentheses. Okay. Whatever you do inside of it is called the argument. Okay. That means go ahead and execute whatever is inside of this. And okay, what will it execute? In this case, it will execute what this function is supposed to do. A function is a job, and this job is specific to printing. So let's go ahead and see that. And there you have it. We have hello there. How is everyone doing? So this we covered last time. Let's do it again in a different way. And while we do this, let's try to understand how variables work. Now, what do we mean by variables? Variables will be, let's say, a space in memory where we're going to store data. Okay, can we store this message in a variable? Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do it again. So what I'm going to do here is just hit enter, bring it down a few lines down. As you can see, here are my line numbers. And I'm going to cut this right here, out of here. Just cut it. And I'm going to create a variable, call it message. And I'm going to make it equal, and let's, and I'm on Mac, Control V, we'll paste it back in here. And this is what we get. So the message will hold the information, hello there, how is everyone doing? Now, can we print that message? Absolutely, we could do this, message, inside as an argument. Notice now, no two quotes, because if you put two quotes, it will simply print message. But if you type the name of the variable, what will happen, it will go inside in memory and look at what's stored in there, and it will print that. So let's test this one out. Let's go ahead and run this. And notice we get the same result. Hello there, how is everyone doing? Now let's say by mistake I went ahead and put quotes here, okay? And let's see what happens if you run this. Well, simply it will print message. So print function is pretty straightforward. You could tell it exactly what you want to print, or you could tell it to print, okay, whatever message is referencing to, and it's referencing to this piece of information. Aha. So if we can do that with message, let's go ahead and run it again so you can see this. Can we do it with any other type of variables? Sure. Let's go ahead and have another variable. Let's call it my number. And let's put 90 in it. And let's go ahead and print. Okay? And we're going to print my number. So we're going to reference my number as a variable within the print function. Let's see what happens here. And you can see here, hello there, how's everyone doing? And 90 is printed here. Now, can we combine these two? print a number, print a message together. Print is very flexible, the print function. You could do a whole bunch of things. So you could do something like this. Let's go ahead and modify the print function and put some sort of a message, the number equals, and then put a comma here. So what we're doing is we're combining two arguments, a string literal right here, and a reference to a variable. Let's see what that does. And let me clean up and remove the other one so we're just focusing on this part. So we have my number equal 90. We have a string literal here plus a reference to a variable. Now we're curious to see what the output looks like. And there you have it. So you could see the number 90, right? So it's printing the actual reference to the variable and this, okay? Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and do something more interesting. Let's say we call this one my number 1. We will eventually, the next lesson, learn about how to write these variables. What are the rules behind it? What would be an appropriate way to write a variable, and what will not work as a name for a variable. So right now this will work, and let's call this one my number 2. So I have two variables, and this one, let's say it has 71, okay? And we could store the sum of these two in another variable. So instead of just assigning a number to a variable, I can actually have a process. So I can have result equal my number 1. Notice here PyCharm kind of highlights for you what existing variables we have and we could use. All right, so my number 1, I'm going to double click here, plus my, so you're leading it as to what you want to do, my number 2. So what it does is it will, so result will store the sum of these two, okay? Excellent. So what if I put these between quotes? Then it will be a concatenation of strings. We don't want that. So we want the sum of two numbers. So let's go ahead and see this. Let's print. Oops. Print result. Okay. We're going to simply print result. Let's see what happens. 161. Okay. Now, what if I put all of this in quotes? And let's print that. You get this, number 1 plus number 2. What if I put the first one in quotes and the second one in quotes? Then no problem. So what we're going to get now, again, is a concatenation, but without the plus sign in the middle. So watch this. Okay, concatenation means sticking strings together, right? But by putting quotes, you're no longer referencing to a variable. You're simply going to handle a string literal, simply a string, with no reference to a value that is stored in memory, okay? What if you mixed these two together? Let's see what happens. And you're going to get an error. And the reason is you can't add a string with a number. So that leads us to understand that we have different data types. This is a string and this is a number. So they're incompatible. So if you're going to do a plus, for example, you have to have some level of compatibility, which means this has to be of the same type as this. So if there were both strings, we had no issues with that. If there were both numbers, we had no issues with that. So when we do numbers, right? So now they're variables, so they're really referencing to a number. They're of the same type, so that's not a problem at all. So watch this, right? Now, if we made them string literals like this, and again here, right? So they're of the same type, except the plus now changes meaning. It's no longer an addition, it's a concatenation. Fantastic. So for the next lecture, we're going to look at, or we're going to get deeper into variables. What will be the proper naming conventions for variables. Okay? See you then.